Hey there, Taurus. So we've just had the full moon in Capricorn last night, and what I'd like to do in this roughly 15-minute video is to pace you through some of the key planetary pictures that are taking place over this next 2 weeks, leading us to the new moon in Leo. This is quite an interesting time. We've got 2 new retrogrades that I think are of interest. And of course, we've just had Uranus go into the sign of Gemini. It's finally come out of your sign. Woohoo! If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa Tanner Munson. Hi, welcome. If you've come here before and you've dared to come back, you like this, then thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is bring up some slides because I always like to have something to jog my memory. Before I bring any of the charts up, though, I do want to just start by thanking everybody who supports this channel. And who supports my work. It really, really helps me to do what I'm doing right now. So thank you so much. So we're going from the full moon in Capricorn, like I said, right the way through to the new moon in Leo. And what is significant about this is that, we're starting with this full illumination of the situation. We may well have come up against our patterns in quite a big way. And as we're coming closer and closer to the new moon in this 2-week period, what we should notice is that the external noise starts to die down a little bit and we start to listen internally. We start to take more of a notice of what's going on for us. And I think that's the key point of this. This isn't necessarily a time when we're actively growing things. It is a time when we are tidying things up and getting more conscious of where we're putting our energy. Now, if we look at this as a diary, you can see the full moon is on the 10th of July, and you can see the new moon in Leo's on the 24th, 2 weeks later. The midpoint, known as the third quarter, is on the 18th. But you'll see here, and I've only put in the major aspects between the planets. So I haven't put in the moon's movements or the moon's aspects because the moon is moving all the time and making aspects to planet left, right, and center. But I want to capture everything that is unusual, that we'll be tuning into. And you'll notice that in this first week, there's only the sun trine the North Node that's coming in an exact way. And so it is a very sort of unusually quiet moment. And then in week 2, you'll see that there's some, I think, quite challenging energies. We've got the sun in a square to Chiron, Mars in an opposition to the North Node. That means Mars is in a conjunction with the South Node. That's definitely a key pattern in this 2-week period. We've got Venus making a square to both of the nodes. The sun changes signs into the sign of Leo. I think that's really nice when that comes in. We've got this, which I think is quite fun, Sun in a sextile to Uranus, where things are moving quickly. And then finally, we've got the Sun in a trine to Saturn and Neptune, which I think will also be interesting. But this first part of week 2 does look quite challenging. And you can see as well, Saturn goes retrograde on the 13th of July until sometime in November. And Mercury is going retrograde until the 11th of August. So there's definitely some things to consider. So let's have a look at these charts. So this is the chart from your perspective, a Taurian perspective, on the 10th of July. And this is how it looks on the 24th of July with the new moon in Leo. So you can see that the full moon here is taking place in this 9th house area of your chart. And then by the time the new moon comes in, it's aligning with the 4th house. To me, what this is talking about is the stress actually of not feeling very stable, the stress that comes up when we are excited by new things, all that glitters is not gold. But, the full moon here is really showing that there's a lot of external and different and unusual things going on. You might feel a little bit wary or worried about what's going on in the world. You might feel slightly threatened by new things coming in. Similarly, you might, with this kind of love fest, of Jupiter and also the sun in the 3rd house, you might feel that there's so much stability at home, and yet there is a feeling of unrest on the periphery. And so that's what I think the full moon, one of the things that the full moon is bringing up. And then as the moon comes around and all the other planets shift forward somewhat, the sun and the moon meet here in the 4th house. And to me, this is an opportunity, an ideal opportunity for you to come into a grounded position where you feel comfortable at home. This is, to me, this is showing you that there is a beautiful and probably bold new start in terms of your relationship to your house and your family. So this to me just looks really lovely. I love this so much. And one of the things that I think is also changing is, Uranus moving out of your 1st house. You've had Uranus there since 2018. And since he has been in your 1st house, he's definitely been creating a sense of tension, a sense of excitement, a sense of lots of change, probably lots of change coming from the outside, but somehow reaching you in your life. But you've gone through some different, some changes because of that. Mostly, I imagine that you've learned to cope with things that are unstable. Now Uranus is showing up in your 2nd house. Now, I know a lot of people might be going, oh, God, it's in the 2nd house now, because obviously the 2nd house is about money. It's about our stability with resources. It's also very much about how we might make money and also how we might feel about ourselves. The 2nd house is also about, are you kind to yourself? Do you value yourself? Have you got good self-esteem? So Uranus in this part of the chart is going to start to prompt you to change your habits and prompt you to see things differently. Thankfully, we've also got Venus working through this part of your chart, and obviously Venus is your ruling planet. Her residency in the sign of Gemini right now is very, very helpful in this next 2 weeks in terms of your money. The longer term picture, and I will talk about this in the Uranus forecast, but Uranus here is going to be encouraging you to make money in unusual ways and to not follow the tried and tested route and the tried and tested patterns. One of the things I see instantly, this is a money house. Uranus is crypto type, he's futuristic. He's changing money into a futuristic way of interacting. Now, that might be your thing. It might not be. It could also show where we start to gamble a little bit. Again, I'm not suggesting. May I just say that I'm not a financial astrologer or a financial whatever it's called. I'm not somebody who can coach you on your finances, not by a long shot. But what I do see here with Uranus coming in is that things are likely to get a lot more exciting, move a lot faster. So, for instance, if you've got a business or you want to start a business, like a side hustle, something based online or something based with social media, which I think Uranus really helps with, could be quite helpful. It could be something that takes off. It could be something that moves quite fast. But I think with Uranus coming in here, one of the things to bear in mind is that things might move really fast one day and then they can just dip. Uranus does bring the instability. So I think whatever your plans are for your money coming up, they need to be quite resilient. You need to almost kiss goodbye any money that you invest, and then if and when it yields, it's a huge bonus. And I know people who have really turned things around with Uranus in the 2nd house, so it's not all bad. Pluto here as well at the top of your chart is really helping you to redefine yourself in terms of having a lot more power. So these are going to be working together for quite some time. So I do really think there's an opportunity to make a lot of money. I really do. Now, something else that really strikes me about your focus in this period of time is that the sun, which is in the 3rd house, is very much about feeling accepted, feeling a sense of belonging in your environment. So I do think you're probably going to be quite busy. I do think you're probably going to be doing lots of things, lots of activities and getting in touch with people, being in meetings and things like that. I think it's going to be nice. I think you're going to have a sense of, a real connection for a real reason. Jupiter going through here is also really boosting opportunities here. One thing I would say with Jupiter, especially right now, because he's stressed with Saturn and also Neptune in your 12th house, is just to watch out for things that are over exaggerated in your local area. The reason I say that is because wherever Jupiter goes, he is making everything bigger. And of course, if he's making your reputation bigger or situations in your town bigger, whilst he's in this sort of enduring square with Saturn and Neptune, by the way, in the next forecast period, he won't be, which will be nice. Saturn and Neptune here could really show you where there are situations that are unclear that you can't quite see. And so I would just be a little bit cautious in terms of how you're expressing yourself in your local environment just over the next couple of weeks. In fact, I probably would wait until Mercury is going direct from the 11th of August. If there is something that you're wanting to do in your local environment and something that you want to launch or something you want to share, if you've got a beautiful vision that you want to get involved in, I probably would just wait a short while, until your influence is at its top, at its peak. And it's not quite just yet, but it is coming up. And of course, then the sun is going to move into the sign of Leo anyway from the 22nd. Now, the 22nd, as you can see, is quite a big day. That's the day when Venus is exactly in a T-square with the nodes. She's really showing that your old sense of possibly passionate love, possibly an old passionate fling could be coming up for some consideration. The South Node here and Mars, and if you notice here, this is the first chart, and Mars is getting closer and closer throughout this time. Mars here is showing old situations that you've put a lot of passion into, and you probably did quite well, but it's part of the past. Right now, your energy is really a lot more, I think, more globally accepted. Your energy right now is meant to be kind of moved out and through friends and networks and things like that. I think your energy is a lot more about collection and connection, like collectivity, not collection, but like the connectivity and the collective. And so I do think you might be sort of held a little bit by the past. You might be thinking about old situations that felt really good, and where you were really creative and where you had a lot of natural agency in your situation. But really what life is teaching you about right now is to have the confidence to be able to work in liaison with other people, to be able to create something with people. This is about co-creation. And I can see that you do have some concerns about it. Whatever these concerns are, in particular, if they're based on an old hurt, I really recommend that you have a think about it over this next couple of weeks. Also, we've got this sun and moon T-square to Chiron. And then by the time the new moon comes in, the moon and the sun are still in a square to Chiron. And now Pluto's adding his bits in as well. And Chiron is in your 12th house, really bringing up the real dregs of old situations for you to look at. So what I would recommend is anywhere where you're feeling difficulty in connecting with other people on a more global scale or on a more community scale, you want to ask yourself why. What hurt or a bad situation came up last time you did it, and what did you make it mean? And how did you make it mean that's not for you? Because what I really see is that it's not that it's not for you. It's just that sometimes situations go, sometimes situations are dire. Sometimes things don't work out. And sometimes the people that we're working with, they're not the right people for us to work with. But the skills involved, the skills we've learned are meant to be put towards something. So I really do see that as this new moon comes in, yes, you're feeling a greater sense of belonging. And yes, you're probably feeling a lot more like there's a new start at home. But anywhere where that old hurt is stopping you from connecting outside of the home, I think it really needs some, a deeper look at it. So I'm going to leave that there for you. I've got a little ad I'm going to play in a second, just for my forecast subscription, where you can get 4 extra zodiac forecasts every month, and also 20 daily ones as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, just check it out straight after. Lots of love, and hopefully I'll catch up with you real soon. Bye for now, Taurus. So if you're enjoying my forecast every 2 weeks on YouTube and would like to go even deeper into your planetary coding, then why not try out my astrology forecast group? What you'll get for this small investment of $9 a month is a relationship and connections forecast every 2 weeks, a career and ambition forecast every 2 weeks, and also Monday to Friday daily updates where I share everything that I think you might need to know to get into your flow. If this sounds good to you and you want to join, then all you need to do is click on the link in the description field below.